What's up, guys? Hope you guys have all been well and staying safe. Welcome back to another video. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Christmas gifts. Okay, so if you're anything like me, you probably haven't done any sort of Christmas shopping for any of your loved ones, friends, family, whatever it may be. You probably put off your Christmas shopping till the very last minute, and so you probably won't be looking for a Christmas gift for a loved one in, I'll say, for about another 2 to 3 weeks. You've got about 2-3 weeks to think of an idea. If you clicked on this video, there's a good chance you know a watch fanatic or a watch lover, whatever you want to call them, whether it may be a boyfriend, girlfriend, brother, sister, friend, whatever. So I've thought of the top 5 gifts that a watch lover would want to receive, and this video is addressed to not only people who know watches very well, but also people who maybe don't know that much about watches. And so I'm going to try and keep the descriptions as general as possible and explain to you why somebody who likes watches would want this specific gift. I'm going to try and rank these gifts from cheapest to most expensive, all right? And everything will be in the description down below, so I hope you guys take the time to go down and take a look. Okay, so gift number 1 is going to be a book, and I have it right here. This book is called A Man and His Watch. It's probably the most well-known book regarding watches. It's a pretty comprehensive list of the most iconic watches throughout history, and also includes a general description on the watch themselves with very detailed pictures at the same time. So just open it up. There's a hard cover sort of with a blurb here at the back. Essentially what they do is they split every watch brand by archives, and they go through the most iconic watches from that watch brand. So for example, if we're looking at a Rolex Air King, an iconic one was the Domino's Pizza Rolex Air King. I'll just zoom it in so you can take a look. Pretty high quality pictures, as well as a brief explanation as to where the watch came from and what contributed to the watch. Some descriptions are more in detail than others, but in general, you seem to pick up a pretty good understanding of the history of these significant timepieces. And at the end, it also has a bit of information about the contributors and who they were. There's quite a few of them. This can be picked up for approximately $35 to $45 depending on the price at the time on Amazon, and definitely something that they would appreciate if they like watches. Okay, number 2 is going to be a watch box. You'd be surprised how a watch lover will always accept a box as a gift. And the reason is because it gives you more excuses to buy watches. If you buy a friend of yours a box with 6 open watch slots, like this one right here, they're going to find ways to fill in those 6 open watch slots. And so you might actually be doing them a disservice. But all jokes aside, it's a very, very good gift. And especially you can get boxes that are made of wood. This one's made of leather. It's by a brand called Wolf. I've talked about this before. I'm going to leave a link as well for this specific one down below. You can get wooden ones. And the nice thing with the wooden ones are companies that will do engraving for you. And so you can maybe put, sincerely your beloved wife or something like that, like on the bottom, and just give it that sort of personal touch that just makes the gift all the more meaningful to them. Alternatively, if the person you're buying this gift for travels a lot, what you could consider is a watch roll instead of a watch box. This is a very cheap one. I don't use these very often, but basically what a watch roll is actually, let me take off my watch.
10 seconds later.
What a watch roll is essentially you will place the watch in one of these slots. This one's kind of annoying because it's a rubber strap, so that doesn't work the best for this. Bear with me while I struggle with this.
5 minutes later.
So you stick the watch in something like that. What you can do is you can either fold it like this or just roll it up as it is. But most of the time, these things tend to be folded. Again, like I said, this is a rubber strap, and it's very stiff. They'll put the watch in, fold it over, and then what you can do is it actually rolls up into like a ball, and then usually has like a string on it attached where you can wrap it around, and then you can travel with your watches like this. They do, for traveling, also offer watch boxes that are either 1 to 2 piece specific travel watch boxes. They kind of look like a little book, and always get them a hard one if you're going to go that route. If they are going to use it for traveling, this is more so just something maybe you're tossing in a suitcase for watches that personally I wouldn't care about too much. You can get some fraying and just friction between the bracelets if you have multiple watches sitting on metal bracelets inside the watch roll. And so it's not the ideal situation, but it does do the job. So it might be just an option to consider if maybe a watch box might not be the most appropriate choice. Number 3 is actually going to be from a website that I love very, very much. It's actually where I got those posters behind me. I believe it's just someone on Instagram who makes these graphics himself and prints them and then sells them, but they are extremely high quality. So I'm going to go grab one and then we'll just take a more in-depth look. Here's a close-up. I just hope it's not too dusty, and I hope you can see with the glare, but very, very, very high quality prints. There's incredible detail when you get up close. Everything is almost identical to what the actual watch is like. Like it even says Swiss made at the bottom of this GMT Master 2. Look at how much detail he put into this work. Like if you look at the Cyclops, it's not exactly in the middle, it's slightly below, and to kind of just more represent the angle that you would be looking at the watch and how you would actually see the Cyclops if you were seeing it in person. I think that's a very small detail that just kind of shows the artwork that goes into this and the attention to detail. This person's done a fantastic job. I'm going to link his website down below. Do take a look at these, especially if there's a watch that whoever you're buying for has mentioned that is one of their grails or whatever. They can put them on their wall and just fantasize over having it. But it's fantastic job. The website's called 937, and this is the Rolex GMT Master 2. The reference is 126710 BLRO. If you're in doubt, you can stick to anything really Rolex or Omega. There's many watches that basically everybody would like to have on their wall. But the guy who runs this website actually also makes everything from Seiko SKXs to Rolex Daytonas, and there's many different versions and styles of prints, not just this sort of like watch itself. He also has close-ups of the dial, and this is a gift that anyone who likes watches would be more than happy to receive. Okay, moving on. One excellent choice that almost every watch fanatic would enjoy having, but probably doesn't necessarily have. It tends to be one of the later purchases watch collectors tend to buy, but that's a watch winder. The reason I say that is because watch winders can get pretty expensive. It depends, obviously, what kind of watch winder you're buying. If you're buying just a singular watch winder, then they can go for pretty cheap, but it gets more expensive, obviously, as you can have multiple positioning points for multiple watches on the watch winder. Now, for those of you who don't know what a watch winder is, essentially, automatic watches are powered by an actual rotor spinning inside, which compresses a spring, and that's how the watch charges up. That's what the word automatic means. It's automatically charged by movement or kinetic energy, if you want to call it that. When you don't wear an automatic watch for 2 days, let's say on average, and you leave it, it actually dies. It's not like a quartz battery powered watch. Those watches will basically run till the battery dies. A automatic watch will die after the power reserve is exhausted. And so what watch collectors can do is they can place it on a watch winder, and so as the watch is turning, that rotor inside continues to turn and continues to keep the watch charged. Especially if you're the person you're buying this for has a watch that maybe has some complications, like if you see a little moon phase on the dial, or if you see the watch just looks complicated in general, they tend to be annoying to have to reset once they die, and so it's better to keep those kind of watches running most of the time. There is one very cool kind of watch winder called like an orbit winder. They're very expensive. I doubt this would be kind of your number one on your to buy list, but basically it's sort of like a tourbillon movement, if you know what that is. It's like this three-dimensional sort of gyroscopic movement, and that also keeps the watch wound, but it's also very, very, very captivating to look at. I don't have one of those. They usually cost upwards of $1,000. I've yet to find one sort of in a cheaper price range, but they'd be very cool to have, I have to admit. Even if it's perhaps slightly gimmicky, it's still very, very, very captivating to see. I've seen them in real life, and they really are amazing. And the final gift, this might sound obvious, but it's going to be a watch. Now, I'm going to be talking to those of you who maybe don't know exactly what kind of watch to buy your significant other or whoever it may be. And so what I can really do is leave you with the best comprehensive guidelines that I can think of as to how to buy the perfect watch for your significant other. Now, watch fanatics tend to be divided into two main categories, I find. You have the people who just wear watches for the sake of wearing watches. They tend to be very more flexible with what they wear. And then you have the people who are more into the horology aspect of watches. Typically, these people go for more expensive timepieces, but that doesn't mean that they won't appreciate something cheaper, and I'll get into it in just a second. So addressing the very first person. Now, if the person you're buying this for sort of has a lot of watches on the cheaper end, let's say, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just maybe they're not into the mechanical timepieces like I think true watch fanatics are into. And so these kind of people would probably be okay with a fashion watch. There's plenty of fashion watches on the market. You've probably already seen them on your own Instagram. These watches tend to be quartz. They tend to have a strong social media presence, and I find they tend to be lower quality in general. It doesn't mean it won't be a good gift for the person necessarily. It's just that if the person you are buying this for falls into the second category, category of watches, you can pretty much guarantee they're not going to wear it and they're going to toss it aside and just let the battery die, and that's that. So that leads me into talking about the second kind of watch fanatic. Now, the second person is going to be more horologically inclined. I'm going to say more into sort of the mechanical nature of watches and more into usually more old school type of charm. This is the kind of person who's going to want an automatic watch. Now, automatic watches sometimes do go for cheaper than fashion watches. There's plenty of automatic watches that you can find for the $100 to $200 mark. If you want to go higher, if you want to go more expensive, you can always do that. There's plenty of amazing options to go for. I have a video on the top 5 budget dress watches in my description. I'm hoping before Christmas I'm going to have another video on the top 5 sports watches, and that series is going to be slowly expanding as time goes on. And so really, if the person you're buying this for is more into the mechanical nature of watches, all you really have to know is what kind of taste do they have. And you can really know that pretty simply by watching what they wear. Do they tend to wear more classical, more dressy pieces, or do they tend to wear kind of more sporty, more clunky sort of dive watches, kind of more rugged looking watches? Do they tend to wear watches that have many hands on them and you see many buttons on it? They just look complicated in general. So you're gonna have to do a little bit of digging to see what sort of watch they'd like, but the basic rules that I can give you to assure that they're gonna enjoy the gift that you bought them and actually remember the fact that you bought them by wearing it often on their wrist is A, it's going to have to be automatic, and then B, it's just going to have to be within their taste. And I mean, really, if you cover those two bases, coming from a significant other, there's really no way a watch fanatic won't appreciate having another watch to their collection, especially considering it's a watch that sort of is in line with what they're looking for in timepieces. So that was the video, guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Please feel free to leave me comments down below and ask me questions as to what you should buy or what you think is a good gift idea or any kind of questions you may have about this. I respond to almost every comment in a timely fashion. I'm more than happy to have dialogues with you guys and to be talking about maybe what the best route would be for whoever you're buying a gift for. And so on that note, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. And until next time, stay safe and take care.